Episode 60, boys. MG, what are you wearing? What do you got on there?
Just in case if my Alzheimer's kicks in, I got my name on my job. Actually, I don't think you boys have ever worn yours. I've never seen you.
I haven't worn my Prep Coach merch with my name on it.
I haven't seen Scotty in his either.
Nah, to be honest, mine when you gave it to me, I didn't want to say anything, but it didn't fit me, bro.
What size was it?
It was an XL, but it was just a bit tight. I think I was a bit too fluffy.
You should check it out now, man. Because this is an XL, man, and it's loose enough now that I've lost a bit of weight.
I might have to, yeah, I'll try. You know what? I might suss it out. I think it's somewhere.
It'll fit now.
Yeah, 100%.
I think when I gave it to you, you were mid-90s.
When did you give it to me?
You hadn't even started prep. Like,
if it didn't fit me, I must have been closer in the triple digits then. Because anyway, it was a bit too snug.
It'll
I'm
fit
pretty
now.
sure mine was a large. That just goes to show, Scotty, you're just too huge.
Because
You've got no chance. If yours is a large, you've got no chance of that now. If you had done that on the chest press yesterday, you would have been bursting at the seam.
Yeah, the only thing we could do is I could give you mine because it's a bit big for me now. I've lost a bit, and I'll wear yours.
But the name.
Doesn't matter. I can be you.
MGMT. Yeah.
I wake up every day just trying to be a little more like you anyway.
Jeez, people are going to hear us rambling on about a hoodie.
Might have to call the first segment of the potty the ramble.
Us talking crap.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got so many questions, but I'm going to start with something that we discussed in last episode, just to kind of continue on. And we touched on education for coaches, and we kind of got two little follow-up questions about it. So one was, you spoke about coaches needing to be mentally strong, patient, etc. What other characteristics does a good coach need to have? And then there was another question about, you suggested coaches get their PT cert, read 2 ebooks. What about comp prep seminars, short courses that other companies supply? So obviously when you're coming up to be a coach, you've got to educate yourself, right? So I think one of the biggest things that you need is have a real passion for the sport and a passion to learn, and want to continuously learn and then come up with your own methods and protocols and things like that. So, for instance, they asked about seminars and courses and things like that. I would say go to as many seminars and courses based on, your budget, obviously. Listen to podcasts, follow coaches that are in the know, and then see the commonalities and then start to decide what is going to be your method and your protocol. But I'll just be careful though, because you can go to seminars and people can talk with conviction and they're regurgitating information from other people that they haven't really practically applied. But they've had plenty of time to write that educational information, write that post, but they're not experts in what they're actually saying. So for instance, a good example, right? Us boys now, we haven't read any of the questions that people have asked. I literally just copy and paste them in the notes, and then we just read them and we just start talking on the fly. That's because we know exactly what we're talking about. We're confident in what we say, and we don't need to sit down, research, try to get all the answers, come up with a good response, and then post it out online. We're pretty much we know what we're talking about and we just go from there. That's the kind of people that you want to start to listen to. People that aren't regurgitating information, trying to put things together that takes them maybe hours or days to put a post or a video together. People that just know what they're saying, say it with conviction, and also admit when they need to learn more and when they also make mistakes. So I know with us boys, we never admit that we know everything. And I think that's super important as a coach too. Don't go in thinking that you know it all, because as soon as you think you know it all, that's when you stop learning. So always be a person that's willing to learn, willing to decipher all the information that you are learning, come up with your own method, your own strategy, and also be really, really careful of not just believing everything that everyone says, and really start to, be a student of the game. Anything else on that to do with up-and-coming coaches and what kind of characteristics they should have?
Yeah, in terms of the 2 things I'll say, in terms of someone who's maybe really new and trying to build themselves, I think the best piece of advice I can give to you is be willing to do a lot for not a lot in return. So I know, like, when I was starting, and I may have mentioned this on a previous episode, I think to grow my book, I took on free clients at one point in time, and then to build my face-to-face so that I could get real life experience in coaching to build me up to a point where I was doing, 45 face-to-face sessions per week. And I'm not saying you should do this, but my first PTs were like $35 PTs. Even though the going rate in the industry at the time was, say, $70, I was charging $35 because I wanted to get like a book of people that I could start to use, that I could then start to advertise results, because I didn't have it. And the only way to do that was to offer, because I didn't have proof in the pudding. I didn't have, an Instagram page that had 1 million transformations like I do now. And I needed that. So I was willing to take people on at a really cheap rate and sometimes for free, so that I could utilize side-by-side photos, so that when people jumped on my page because someone said, oh, you should coach with my mate, I had proof that I knew what I was doing. So that's something to consider. I'm not saying that you should give away all your money, but if you've got no one and you need to build up and get people, you need to think about how you're going to do that. And as fancy as it is and would be amazing to just have 50 clients and have an Instagram page that looks like Trimboli's, that just takes years and years and years. So the quicker you can start to build some proof like that, the better. So think about that as something, is you need evidence. In terms of characteristics, I think you need to find the balance between being really understanding, because things do happen and we go through certain things that become difficult to deal with, and nobody's got that perfect life where every week, their results are perfect, their life is perfect, nothing major is happening in their life with family, with friends, with work. We all have it. So you need to have the ability to be super understanding and understand what people are feeling in those moments, but you need to be able to call a spade a spade. So if somebody is continually saying, oh, I wasn't able to do it this week because of this, I wasn't able to do it this week because of this, you need to also be able to say, well, how many weeks do you want to, at some point, waste before you start to get closer and closer to your goal? Because at one point you said you wanted to achieve this, and we should be so much closer than we are. So you need to be a little bit hard too. Equally, I think anyone that knows me knows that's definitely the hardest thing for me to be, is, really, really hard on people, because I do have a lot of empathy, sometimes a little bit too much. So you need to find the balance, and that, equally, that's something I'm still working on. I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm still working on being hard enough in certain situations. So we are always perfecting our skill set. But I think, the biggest thing is the ability to understand someone's situation. We've had questions on here constantly about, I mucked up and I told my coach, and my coach just made me feel like horse shit. And I think anyone who's had any experience understands that none of those athletes or clients end up in a great position with their coach, post their coach just being ridiculously rude and harsh in a situation where, perhaps they've overeaten or they missed a session or something like that. So I think if you're in a different role at the moment, you think about switching across the PT, think about, does your current situation go hand in hand with what it takes to be a coach? And if it doesn't, then you need to spend ample amount of time in that situation to prepare yourself for what coaching presents to you, because it is sometimes 24/7, 7 days a week. There's always messages and things to get back to. And as I said to you, I think I said this in the previous episode, if you're someone who gets frustrated with people all the time, that's something that you're probably going to have to address before diving deep into coaching, because you need to be patient and understanding of people's situations. And how do you do that? That's another episode.
Yeah. Anything on that, Scotty? Because you did touch on a couple of things I want to bring up, but I'm going to get Scotty to go.
No, you're all right. You go.
I was just going to say, having empathy is super important, but not being someone that can be walked all over. Don't be a people pleaser all the time. Sometimes you've got to have those hard conversations with some people for the better good of their progress and of their goal. Also think too is, going back to what I mentioned last time, you've got to be mentally stable. If you're going through tough times in your life as a coach, you can't let that affect your coaching. So for instance, I've gone through a breakup while I was doing this job. I also was going through prep while I was doing this job. No one knew, never affected any of my clients. I didn't change the way I coached. I made sure it did not affect any of my clients. So you got to really make sure that what you're going on in your life, you can disconnect from the service you provide your clients. Also, in saying that too, is don't let your own goals and what your interests are and what you're into affect how you coach someone and what you try to publicly put out there. So for instance, we see some coaches that now they're into powerlifting, so that it's all about powerlifting now, and all their clients are doing powerlifting moves and strength training. Or a coach is in their prep, so everything they talk about online is about, you just got to nail everything. Like, this has got to be your life. And that's how they present themselves, and they push that out to all their clients. And then they're in an off season. It's like, no, it's all about balance and flexibility. And you can tell that's what they're pushing out towards their clients. You need to make sure that you give your clients a service that isn't influenced by what your hobbies are, what phase you're going through in your life, what your new interest is. You can't let that affect the goals of your clients. So, and we see that all the time, right? We see that online when a coach is going through something, they're doing something new, they're into something new, or they're going through a specific phase within their journey, they start to only present those things. So just be really, really mindful that you don't push any of your things onto your clients if it's not going to be congruent with their goals. What do you think, Scotty? Anything else you want to add?
No, I think you've nailed it. Both of you boys have gone into good detail. That's pretty much it. You need to be real and just be who you are and find your own style as well. I think a lot of people, like, yes, it's important to look up to people who are perhaps where you want to be, but I think it takes time to just sort of find your groove, like the way that MT coaches versus MG versus how I coach. Everyone has the art of coaching, and they have their own bespoke system in terms of how they communicate and how they deliver and whatnot. So you kind of just need to find what works for you and just be honest with yourself. But yeah, you have to remember at the end of the day, you may be an athlete, but there's a big difference, and there's a lot of athletes now who are now getting into coaching. But just because you like doing X, Y, and Z doesn't necessarily mean that is what the client needs. Like programming 101, there must always be a reason behind why you're doing what you're doing. And it needs to be about the athlete first and foremost. So they need to come first. But that's pretty much all I would say. Otherwise, I think you guys have covered it quite well.
All right, let's move into some nutrition questions. There's a whole bunch here. I'm just going to start from the top of the list and just work my way down. Mm-hmm. So if I miss a meal for one day, would it make a negative effect on me? So let's just call it, whether it's in a fat loss phase, would it make an effect? Whether it's in a surplus, would it have an effect? They miss a meal.
I think I said miss meals for one day was what it said. If I miss my meals for one day, would it make a negative effect on me? So like
meals, yeah.
Meals is again a very broad question, but
it implies more than one, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I mean, the message is kind of the same, right? If you're in a growth phase and you miss multiple meals and you're under eating, is it going to have an effect? Well, yes, it is going to have an effect, because what you're trying to do is create an environment where, the calorie surplus is always there, energy availability is high, and missing meals is going to take away from that. Is one day in the scheme of an off season going to ruin everything? Absolutely not. Equally as it is on the other side, and we've spoken about this before, we talk about liberating 1 kilo of fat tissue at approximately 7,700 calories. Is overeating by 500 calories going to ruin a whole prep? No, it's not. But it's more the habit that needs to be addressed, and it's more like, why did you miss those meals? What caused you to miss those meals? Is it just an anomaly? Was it like just a really crazy day? Something really, out of the ordinary happened and you missed those meals? Totally fine. But it's something that can happen again, and you can see that, this might present itself in future. That's what needs to be addressed. But no, one missed meal isn't going to, I hate saying that it's not going to do anything, because it's like, I really do like to see, like, Scotty spoke about it a little while ago. It's like when you stand on stage and you present your physique, and that for 26 weeks, everything was 100%, fuck, it feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. So like, that's where I'm saying it has an effect. It's like, you owe it to yourself. You agreed that you're going to do this goal. But let's just say, I'll give you an example. Our mate James, who I coach, friend of ours as well, he's just about to have a baby, right? So, we planned a little bit ahead of time so that he was ahead in his prep, so we could allow for some flexibility, because you just don't know what's going to happen. His partner's going to go into labor. Who knows how long it's going to last? Equally, we've prepared well for it in terms of how we've set our meals up whilst he's going to hospital and back, but it may happen, right? So that situation is fine. But again, we've done our best to prepare and plan for it. Did you just miss your meals because you couldn't be fucked?
Yeah.
That's what needs to be looked at.
Yeah. Okay. Is Ayams sweet chili sauce okay for every day in prep? Tracked,
Track.
of course. I think
Fucking
it's a
oath.
must.
It is. You just need to be mindful of the sodium content of it. And again,
Yes.
make sure that you're tracking your electrolytes.
Yeah. That's a really good point because sometimes people will add these things in, no calories, hardly any calories, whether it's seasoning or sauces and things like that. And yeah, there's high sodium content. So just
Mhm.
be really, really mindful, especially as we move towards the show. And we want to try to make sure we have a great balance of electrolytes during that time.
Unless you're Michael Tribolo, who loves 44,000 grams of salt a day.
Nah, I'm changed man. I'm a changed man. I'm all good now.
Loves a bit of sodium, the MT, doesn't he?
I did love a bit of sodium back then, but no,
For a walk,
definitely.
man. You can't. It's the
Yeah.
way it is.
Okay, Scotty, this one's for you. Uh, can Scotty take us through his current calories, macros, and meal plan? But there's more to this. I'm a personal trainer who trains women only, who are fairly overweight and new to the gym. I'm not qualified to give out meal plans. What is the best way to get them on track with their nutrition? I currently get them to track their food on MyFitnessPal. What would you do in this situation? So
Good
it's
question.
asking what you're eating, but I really think they want some help on how to coach someone uh, with their.
Had a guide Gen Pop when
Yeah.
starting out in terms of nutrition. It's a good question.
So if you had someone, fairly overweight women, apparently, and they're new to all this, how would you get them? What would you get them to start on to start tracking their nutrition and starting that fat loss journey?
I think you need to assess the individual in the sense that everyone's nutritional literacy is going to be different. So if you've got someone that's never had any exposure to training, to nutrition, I think if you are putting in place systems like trying to get them to flexible diet and do this, then you're setting them up for failure rather than success. So one of the things I like to do is just get them to just go about what they would usually do for the first week, but record a food diary. So I want you to write everything down that you consume, but I also want you to take a photo of everything that you're consuming each day. And things like when they're taking their photo, so let's say that they've made themselves, I have cereal for breakfast. Okay, cool. I want you to put your cereal in a bowl, or if you're having your dinner, and then I just want you to get a teaspoon and stick it at the base of where your plate or your bowl is for whatever reason. That they might be like, why would you get me to do that? It gives me some context in terms of how much they're actually consuming. So it might be like, oh, I'm having steak and veggies with mashed potato or pasta. And so if I have that as a metric of assessment, I know roughly the size of that. It gives me some understanding, oh, I only had this and I only had that, but it's like, well, how much of that did you actually have? And so I'll get them to record that. Most people have a smartphone, so their steps and whatnot. So basically just get them to live like normal, because if you ask them, most of the time, if you get them to do something, they'll underreport. So
Mhm.
having an element like that, if it's a teaspoon or it could be a dessert spoon, whatever it is, to be able to identify how much they're consuming is definitely beneficial, because then with their food diary, I can actually go through, and it might have been cereal, it might be Special K, whatever it is, and they might say, oh, I reckon I only had about 50 grams. And you look at it and you're like, I reckon that's more like 100. And so then from there, I'll have a look at roughly what I think they're consuming, and it would usually be within 10, 20%. And then sit down, go through that with them. And more often than not, it's usually at least double, sometimes triple what they think that they would be having.
Mhm.
And then from there, go through some basics rather than just giving them a meal plan straight up, asking them to make some basic changes. So from now on, when you have your dinner, whatever you would normally serve yourself up, I want you to half that. And when you have your dinner meal, I want you to make sure that there's 5 different colors on your plate. So you might have something that's red, something that's green, something that's yellow. So from a micronutrient profile, you're getting in some of those foods there. And once they can go through some of those basics, and again, really paying attention to, am I hungry? Am I just eating because I'm bored? And I use the example, if someone's walking around handing out cucumbers, would you be like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll have a cucumber? And if you wouldn't, like right now, if someone's handing out cucumbers, I'd love a piece of cucumber. But if you're like, oh nah, I'm good, then the chances are you're not really hungry, you're just bored. So I think being able to become in tune with your hunger signaling is a big thing as well. Are you hydrated? How much fluid they drink? A lot of the time people are dehydrated, and so they'll look to food to be able to onboard fluid that way. And so once you've gone through that, you'll usually be able to rinse out, if they're really overweight, like anywhere from 10, 12, even 15 kilos. And then from there, they've got some basic understandings now. And then maybe you can look at integrating a nutrition plan where, again, I'll always give them the macronutrients of each meal, as well as, this is in an ideal world, based on foods that they enjoy eating. Because if you just give them what you like eating, then you're not really setting them up for success. Where if it's like, I really like having Special K in the morning and I love fresh fruit with my breakfast. Okay, cool. I'm going to put something together for you that A, meets your energy requirements, your macronutrient and your micronutrient requirements, and then give them that basis. And once they've gone through that, you'll normally see another really good, say 6 or 8 weeks, but you've also given them some pillars and foundations that they can then look to integrate. Say, you can have that flexible dieting approach. Okay, these are some of the foods that you're eating. These are the macronutrients of those foods. These are, in an ideal world, this is roughly how much carbohydrate we want to have. This is when we want to consume our fats. This is when we want our carbohydrates. And then you're basically just building in stages. Whereas if you just try and slap someone with everything, like what we would give a physique athlete now, then the success rate is going to be very, very poor. Whereas if you treat it, and this is why you have to understand, no one person is going to be the same. And the way that you approach an overweight Gen Pop person versus how you approach Michael Trimboli, who presses 4.5 plates on an incline press, they're chalk and cheese. They're going to be very, very different. And majority of the time with people that are overweight, it's habitual based and it's changing behavior and changing habit rather than just telling them what to do. And if you can correct the behavior, then usually that will correct the decision making and thus the energy intake.
Yep. Nailed it, Scotty. Anything MG on that?
Yeah, the only other thing is something I see me use all the time, which I like really, really well, is to use some visual cues for portion sizing. So like she'll say, for someone who's like brand new, rather than, should definitely always go with a food diary. So I reckon that's just such a great exercise to go through. And it generally wakes people up to what they've been doing. Equally, a lot of people I see, they change the way they eat when you ask them to fill out a food diary. It's just the way it is. It's like, I eat a little bit better. And what happens just from filling out the food diary, they lose a kilo that week, just because they've been a little bit better because they know that they're being accountable to someone. But utilizing visual cues. So I've got a plate this big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a palm-sized serving of a lean protein. I'm going to put some good fats in there, which I'm going to use like a thumb-sized serving. Starchy carbs, I'll use a fist size, and then green, veg, or non-starchy carbs, I can basically fill up the rest of the plate. And eat like that for your main meals, other than breakfast. And same as Scott, you tend to see like a really big weight reduction over the first, 5 or 6 weeks, just from making those visual adjustments to portion sizing.
Yeah. Awesome. I know, Scotty, if you ever ask me to do that, right, I'm going to go to my nonna's house, get the massive spoon that's hanging on the wall, the big wooden wog spoons that every wog has on the wall, and I'm going to put that next to my plate.
You won't know. That's it.
That's the guide.
And then I think the other part of the question was just a bit of more like what Scott's actually having at the moment. Like, what is he eating? I think he said last week he's pretty much having just one sort of meat meal and utilizing Greek yogurt, which, funny, Scotty, I did that all week this week.
And how do you feel?
Oh, it's just so easy, so convenient. I feel great, man. And I had a great result, as you probably saw. But the amount of Greek yogurt I've consumed in the last 7 days.
Yeah, I mean,
I was already consuming a fair amount, but I just swapped out one more meal, actually. And I found it very, very, very beneficial.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, it's not that I'm against meat or anything like that, but it's just a convenience. And I like to eat my meals fresh. So having like fresh cooked chicken mince of an evening and, stir frying your vegetables, things like that, I just enjoy it a bit more, and taking a bit of time to not just have to quickly scoff and then get back to work like what you would normally do on a day-to-day. But in terms of my intake, so low days are 2,475, I think. So I'm to tell you, my food doesn't really change, although it is going to as of Friday. So I'm going to have my first diet break. So I've been in probably close to my last digging phase the last 10 days, knowing that I'm heading up to Queensland to get some sun, and I wanted to pair that with giving back to the system a bit more with a bit more food. And so while I was feeling reasonably good, I thought I might try and be a little bit more aggressive. So my low day intakes have been 275 grams of carbs, 50 grams of fat, and 230 protein. So 2470. And my refeed days will be between 500 and 550. It'll depend on, because I haven't had a refeed for a little bit. And again, energy balance is a dynamic thing. And I think that I'll probably be a bit more active. So it'll more likely be probably 550 carbohydrate, 50 fat, 230 protein. So it'll be either 3,570 calories or it'll be 3,370, which is what my previous refeeds were.
Nice.
Yeah. But again, these are relevant to me, not to anyone else. So
of course.
You'd be amazed at how many, I still don't understand why the amount of people that reach out in my DMs asking, and that's one of the reasons why, to be honest, I've stopped putting posts up about my food, because it just, what I'm eating, if you're wanting to either gain or if you're wanting to lose, it's completely irrelevant, because unless you're literally doing every single thing within the day that I'm doing and we weigh the same and we're the same height and we have the same amount of muscle mass, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay. Is the calories and macros in MyFitnessPal accurate? So the calories and macros they provide, you know, when you just put in your goals and you put in your and it calculates it for you, is it accurate? Or should we use another method? And is there another method to calculate your macros?
It depends on what, is it, they're talking about food entry?
No, the actual MyFitnessPal
goals
spits out your macros for you automatically.
Oh, the ones that they give you?
Yeah.
They're normally dog shit. They're normally really, really high fat, low protein, because I think they work it off like 1.4 grams of, you know, of protein.
Yeah.
As a physique athlete, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And again,
they're
depending on your individual and where you're at and your training and whatnot. But I mean, if you work off something generic, like say 20 to 25% of your total intake from fats, you're working off 2 to 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight, and then whatever left over is your carbohydrate.
Yeah. Honestly, a good Google of a macro and calorie calculator for a physique athlete, you can definitely find out some good numbers that are way more accurate than what MyFitnessPal are going to pump out for you.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. How do you track spray oils?
Just stick the can on the scales, zero it, spray it, put it back on there.
Yeah.
That's what I do, and it works every time.
Yeah.
Unless the can's almost empty, in which case use a fuller can.
Yeah. I actually did it the other way, which kind of works, but actually your way sounds a little bit better. I'd actually put my fry pan on my scales, spray it, and put it on the scale, like zero the scale out with the fry pan on it, spray it, and see what it weighed.
Yeah.
I guess because as I was spraying, I wanted to make sure I only got 2 or 3 grams. Whereas if I sprayed it, put the can back, and I oversprayed, I'll be like, ah, shit.
Yeah. I do Scotty's way as well. That's the same way I do everything: peanut butter, yogurt, everything.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to have like a spoon that you're using to scoop out, that's not going to get everything perfect. That's why I do it with peanut butter, because you can take 20 out, but the spoon's got 4 on it, and people will just be like, "Yeah, beautiful."
Yeah.
Didn't count that 4, but it all adds up. So
I think because the spray, you can't put it back in the can. Like,
yeah, I get it.
Well, you could just dab a bit of paper towel on it. But to be honest, when you've been doing it for long enough, you just, I can't remember the last time that I've sprayed a pan and it wasn't just what I thought it was going to be, just 2 grams of olive oil.
Yeah.
Don't be an arsehole when you spray.
Yeah. And so you should, and track it. So it's good that person asked, because yes, you need to track it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What are the best fat sources during prep? Avo, peanut butter, ? I think it's whatever you like.
You want to mix,
digest well with you. I know some people that pump out way too much Avo will actually get some digestive issues with it. So, and I actually know some people that are allergic to Avo too. So it has natural sugar alcohols, which can affect some people's digestion. So, but it's whatever you like. And as long as it's got, good volume, like I wouldn't be drizzling everything in oil as your fat source, because it's not going to be the most amazing volume, and it's not going to be very satiating. Whereas Avo is a bit more volume. PB, obviously a bit more volume. But also be careful about what you're your temptations are like around those foods too. So I know some people that have had to just, their peanut butter is like, had to go down to 10 grams on their meal. And they're like, you know what? It's not even worth having this thing in the house anymore, because if I'm only having 10 grams a day and every time I go in the pantry, I'm looking at that jar and it's tempting me, I'd rather not have it in the house. So take those things into consideration too.
And also what the nutrients in the food, the profile of the food you're having. Like if you're not having any fatty fish, like I don't eat salmon and I don't really like fatty fish. So supplementing with fish oils, avocado, nuts, things like that, being mindful of your omega-3, omega-6s, making sure that you're giving your body the nutrients that it needs. Because at the end of the day, you're in a suboptimal environment and you're trying to perform optimally in that environment. So again, a lot of the people think just hit your macros. I don't really reside to that camp. I think the profile of the foods that you're eating, I know at least for me, I want to give my body everything that I can to be as optimal, even if it's worth 0.1%, I'd rather still go down that path. I'm not saying you can't have peanut butter. I have peanut butter every day, but I still have avocado. I still have some nuts, and I have fish oils every day. So I think as long as you're being mindful of that and you're not just trying to make a fucking Mars bar fit your macros, there's people that do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Tips for food focus during prep. How do I not get obsessed with looking at food? MG?
I wish there was just an easy answer for this. It's like, just do this and you won't be food focused.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not one of those easy things. Like at the end of the day, food focus is always going to be there. And the longer that you diet and the leaner that you get, the more likely it is that it's going to come up. Like I was talking to Matty yesterday, and he was talking about his prep, and he was saying he had a couple of cravings, not even close to acting on anything and won't, but craving stuff that he doesn't even eat in off season when he's on 4,500 calories. It's like, I think just acknowledging and understanding that it's going to be there is one of the most important things that you can do. And equally, learning to acknowledge it and then sit with it for a little bit and have some methods for like distracting yourself. Mm-hmm. I know for me, I'm not super food focused even when I'm really, really dieted down. And if I am food focused, all I want is a bigger bowl of what I'm having. I don't start to crave things that I haven't really been eating. But I'll do one of two things. I use simply like getting up and just going for a walk at that time, no matter, even if it's just like a 2-minute walk or even less. Or sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and ring a mate of mine and not tell them I'm having like some cravings or anything, but just distract myself and move on from it. Yep. But it's going to be there. There's no way to get rid of it. There isn't a way to get rid of it. The three of us are not sitting here saying that we don't get it and we haven't thought about food before. It comes. We don't let it take over. We move on pretty quickly. And we understand that the bigger goal of achieving, the aesthetic physique that we set out to 20 weeks ago is just far more important than a piece of chocolate that's always going to be there. And to be honest, a piece of chocolate that I don't want to eat when I can eat it. So like, why do I want to eat it now? Just because I can't have it. So it's about acknowledging that you probably want it because you can't have it.
Yeah. I think food selection, palatability of food, how tasty it is. Try not to have super tasty food in your diet all the time. Food volume is going to be super important. Obviously, hydration, stress, sleep, hormonal changes. If you're on your cycle, that's also going to change too. And also just your physical environment. What's around you? Is there anything tempting? And also your mental environment. So people that are around you and whether they're supporting you or whether they're egging you on to, have this, have that. It's okay. You can have this, you can have that.
Yeah. So the more you talk about something, the more prevalent it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things MT touched on there that I definitely changed many, many years ago. I think in my first prep, years and years and years ago, I was super creating with food, right? You probably remember, right? I was making some awesome variances of like, homemade pizzas. And like, really, I'm not saying not to have that stuff, but the more I did it, the more I wanted it. And I think for me, what I've found to be really successful is just keeping things really, really, really basic and really simple. And when I'm not eating those types of foods, I don't crave them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything on that, Scotty?
No, I mean, I think, like, for example, I can honestly say I don't have any food focus at all. Like, I think there's a difference between being hungry and food focus. You're in energy deprivation, you're going to be hungry. So that's inevitable. But food focus, I think when you start trying to change your foods. Like I haven't made one adjustment to any source of food that I eat, whether it's a refeed day, it never changes. I can have more carbs this week. It won't be anything different at all. It'll just be rice with that meal instead of potato, and it'll be cereal in one of the meals where there's yogurt. And then that's really the only difference. And I think, again, there's something to be said for that, not making changes. As you said, MG, it's not that I want to have pizza. Like people have been asking me that all week. Are you going to have anything special on your birthday? No, I'm just going to eat what I normally have. I don't want anything different. Like all I will look forward to, even on my very, very last show the night of, is it'll be my same pre-workout meal with yogurt, but it'll just be more cereal, and maybe I'll have a little bit more strawberries or blueberries in it, something like that, and that will literally be it, and that will do me good. So I think
I was going to say, do you want to use Trimboli's not in his bowl? The big, just so that you a really big servings.
Big bowl, big knife, big spoon.
Yeah, it's
I've actually got an off-season bowl in our house. We call it the big boy bowl. It's a big bowl that fits. Man, you remember we've been to Brisbane. You've seen the size of the fucking bowls I eat out of. So at the moment, that's collecting dust. But as soon as I finish,
They're family salad bowls. They're family salad bowls. They're fucking huge.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Just don't change your foods. Just eat less of them as you make adjustments. And when people ask you how you're feeling and are you getting hungry, even if you are, it doesn't matter who it is or how I'm feeling. Oh, yeah, I feel good. Not really. Because as soon as you voice it, then you're putting it out there. Whereas if you don't acknowledge it, then it's just not there. Even if you're feeling it, it may sound really basic and simplistic, but it's always worked for me.
Yeah. I think we've spoken about that in the potty before. Like all the prep feels that you're going to feel, they're going to be walking alongside you the whole prep. Just choose not to turn and look at them. Just continue to look forward and don't acknowledge that they're there. They're there. No, you know they're there. Just don't acknowledge them. Don't give them any airtime. Don't make it your reality.
Yeah.
On this topic about food focus, someone asked about vaping during prep to reduce food cravings. Ever heard about it? Had any experience? Any clients do it?
Nope. No, I can't say I have. Like, I can't even. Wouldn't even know if any of my athletes smoke or vape that I don't know about. Because if they do, I don't know.
Yeah, I had a client that was vaping that I didn't know about.
Yeah, I don't know of anyone that does. I certainly have it myself, especially as like a hunger curbing thing. So, I just think there's better ways to to get through periods of hunger. Then
rather take up gardening or something. Fucking do something that's going to be more conducive with getting the desirable outcome. Clean your house. That's something. If I'm getting really hungry, or if I'm just waiting around for that next meal or something, just get yourself busy. Clean your house, vacuum, mop, whatever. Like, it'll take your mind off it.
Yeah, MG, you know I keep a pretty clean house. It was so clean in prep, so clean.
I just can't imagine that it would never not be clean, man. Like,
just in prep, I was just like, oh, I reckon I've got some time to dust, to vac.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen a dish that's been used that wasn't already washed on the sink. Ever. in years, ever. Like, I would almost question that you used cutlery and plates.
I just eat straight out of the pan.
You just eat out of that fucking pan and you use the spatula as your spoon. That's all I think you use.
Yeah.
Or paper plates.
Even MT's carpet. When you go to MT's house, his carpet, even the vacuum, you can tell it's done in a perfect line because you can see the vacuum lines. It's like, do you walk on this fucking thing?
Yeah, and then I just vacuum it after I walk. I'm just, no, I'm not joking. No, geez, it's not that bad. Shit. Okay.
Yeah, you are very, very tidy.
Yeah. And that's why I want you as my girlfriend and not my husband. As per last potty.
I'll be a side.
I don't even reckon he wouldn't mess up my shit.
I'll be a side. But
I'm exactly the same, MT.
I'll give you lots of things to do. I'll keep you busy, you know?
Yeah, you would. Yeah. I probably need you in prep. You can dirty the house so I have to clean it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in off season, you just need me to just keep telling you that you're beautiful as you get in flight.
Yeah. Okay. Do you lose more muscle when dieting harder or faster, dropping calories quicker instead of dropping them gradually?
you can do if you're not allocating your protein where you need it to be and also getting insufficient protein. But equally, if you're not training hard enough as well, I think people just use protein intake as like a savior of grace in terms of as long as I'm eating enough protein, I won't lose, any contractile tissue. But I think what you do in the gym, giving your body a reason to hang on to that tissue is of the highest importance, especially when you're in that, that energy deficit. There's never more of a need to be able to still train hard and give your body a reason to hang on to that. So I think if you, and it's all context specific, how much have you got to lose? Like if you're 100 kilos and you've got 70 kilos of lean mass on you, you're carrying 30 kilos of fat mass, there's a pretty good chance that you can afford to be really, really aggressive. But if you're 3 kilos off stage weight and you've got 10 weeks to go and you're losing 500-600 grams per week, then there's a good chance that you're degrading lean mass. And that's why we speak about the importance that as we get closer to the show, things slow right down. Your rate of loss goes from, in the early stages, I can use myself, for example, within the first 4 weeks of my prep, I think I pulled off maybe 5 or 6 kilograms, maybe even more than that. Whereas now you're looking at changes of anywhere from 100 to 250 grams per week.
Yeah. So as you have more body fat on you, you can be a little bit more aggressive and lose weight faster. But as you get leaner, you should be backing it off a little bit. So not doing anything too aggressive. And obviously, strength in the gym is a bit of an indicator too.
Yeah, you've got to manage the deficit and knowing when to give and when to take. And also, that's where macronutrient distribution is really important. You want to keep protein consistent 4 to 5 feedings, but you want to utilize your carbohydrate intake, especially when you're dieting around, peri-workout, more so not even really post-workout nutrition, probably pre, in the sense that the meal before you train and the meal before that are equally going to determine the quality of that session, making sure you've got enough carbohydrate on board. Post training, as long as you get a decent protein feeding, then recovering low, yes, you might have depleted muscle glycogen stores, but on the other side of that, you're going to be in a state of lipolysis as well. So you're going to be, oxidizing more free fatty acids. So I think it's just about managing that and knowing when to give and when to take.
Yep.
But if you're overweight, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being assertive and aggressive very early on.
All right, let's move on to a training question. So I won't read the whole question because it's a little bit longer, but what they're basically saying is in their program, they have back squats and deadlifts, but they train at a peak time in the gym and they can't seem to get a squat rack or a platform or get that equipment. So what could they swap those two things out for? So back squats and deadlifts, if they can't do them.
And you can't get in a squat rack at all.
Yeah.
Do they have a hack squat, or have they got like a machine based, a pendulum, or a hack, or a V squat, or a belt squat?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a barbell, I used to be a big advocate of you got to like the barbell back squat, but that's just because I used to always love that movement. But I think as equipment has evolved over the last 6-7 years, like I don't know why would you want a back squat when you could just jump on a nice pendulum or a V squat or like I love our belt squat that we have, or a hack squat. Like if you're in any decent commercial gym, there'll be one of those pieces available. In terms of a hip hinge, maybe go to the Smith machine, or otherwise I'd grab some heavy dumbbells and then go with a dumbbell variant, any kind of hip hinge on that format. And I'm trying to think what else you could use. Yeah, either the Smith machine or just some heavy dumbbells. I'd swap that for a deadlift.
Yep. If you can do, so for the squat, any kind of quad dominant hinge.
Or if it's a V squat like I have in my gym that's double-sided, you could do a good morning on that, so you can load up the pads, go super heavy, and you could good morning on that instead and use that as your primary hip hinge base, because you can go super heavy. You've got a lot more stability and support with the pads on your shoulders, so you could do that instead.
Yeah. So hack squat, Smith machine squat, V squat, pendulum squat. You could do dumbbell, like a goblet squat if you really wanted to. There's also landmine squat, so you could do like with the end of the bar in the corner of the gym. Yeah, do landmine. Same with any deadlift, landmine deadlift, any kind of good morning dumbbell, stiff leg deadlift, Smith machine deadlift. There's a lot of options.
Eat your poison, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next one. We're pumping through and we're getting through it. Here we go, MG. This one's for you. Can you explain selective androgen receptor modulators? I've just come across them via a friend of mine and have no idea what they are or if they are safe to use, and she thinks they are at face value. Great for getting skinny.
You're a fucking waste of money.
Well, first of all, if you're a natty athlete, you're not natty anymore. So I'm hoping that someone explained that to you. It's so fucking bad. So basically, the name is SARMs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about like normal anabolics, they basically will bind to your androgen receptors across your whole body, right? Across all tissues. And these are basically designed to selectively pick what receptor to bind to and leave others out, basically. Stupid. No research, or not enough to show how detrimental they are. Will shut down your natural testosterone production as well. It's absolutely pointless.
Wasn't there a study, something around like 70% of, there was someone that researched them or tested them, and 70% of them didn't even have fucking anything in them, in the sense that there's so many people, because everyone just orders it online now and gets delivered, and they're just bullshit. There's nothing in it.
Yeah.
I remember reading, there was about a year ago or something, reading something like that.
Stay away from everything. And if this person is already enhanced and going that, just stick with the stuff that's got all the research behind. If you want to do PEDs, just do PEDs.
Yeah.
Don't worry with someone out there who might have more knowledge and more experience, but for me, I just would stay away from it. It's just not enough proof, and they're just being sold. You're allowed to sell them online as research-only chemicals, so people can put whatever the fuck they want in them.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
As long as it says on the bottle, research, it's allowed if it says for research purposes only. Not one person buying them is doing research on them. They're utilizing them for performance enhancing. And if you're gonna shut down your natural testosterone to utilize just that method, I just think it's a bad strategy.
Yeah.
You're better off, if you're trying to lose weight, rather than liberating funds to a shitty product that doesn't work, hire a coach who can educate you on how to actually eat to facilitate a deficit and get a result. So many people just jump. I don't have anything against pharmacology if that's the path you want to go down, but so many people use that as a means of thinking that it'll just accelerate everything, and I can still eat shit and I can still train suboptimal. Until you know how to train to the highest of your capacity, and you know how to eat to facilitate adaptation, to train well, then, and if you haven't exhausted your genetic ceiling, then why would you not do that first and then go down that path? Because you can do all of those things. You can still make that, at least in the first few years, you can make, it's free gains. It's like being on pharmacology anyway, if you're a newbie to the scene. But if you're just trying to lose weight, you shouldn't need to rely on drugs to do that.
No, not at all. Then quick next question then. Do you guys coach people that are on PEDs? No?
No.
Nope. Everyone's shaking their head. Nope. Okay. If you gain an ICM Pro card, what are your obligations as a pro or any other natural federation?
Yeah. So if we just use like all the natty feds, they're pretty much the same. So as a competitor, I think your obligation is that if you want to compete in a pro show and you want to do, say, another federation show, that you do that federation in the same season, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say that I am a A&B pro and I want to do an ICN or an NBA pro show, that I would do that pro show as well as the pro show for this fed too, if I was a Moto pro fed. I think the other responsibilities are, potentially attending things to help amateur competitors, workshops, posing events, things like that, although that stuff is, not very common. But yeah, the main responsibility is around the requirement that when you do compete, and if you're going to compete anywhere else, that you at least do a pro show in that federation in the same season. That's stipulated in the contracts. Pros get contracts. I issued a few the other day through A&B. Scotty can probably tell you a little bit more about his ICM Pro contract, but there is some stipulation, but it's certainly not a hard thing to upkeep.
Anything on that, Scotty?
No, it's pretty much it. But I mean, if you're like, I'm an ICM Pro, I'm not an NBA Pro, but I'm doing an NBA Pro show. But equally, I'm also doing 2 ICM Pro shows. So Tony's really good like that. He doesn't, and Wayne, they don't have any issues with that at all. But if I was an ICM Pro, but I wasn't doing an ICN show and I was only doing an NBA show, they probably would. And I think that is in the contract that you're not allowed to do that. But equally, I don't know why you would do that anyway.
Yeah, you're already ready. You might as well do the shows. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've gone pro with that federation for a reason. So you've obviously chosen to, so I don't know.
I think just a little thing there, just to do with some different rules is NBA and AMB will recognize pros from other federations and allow them to do their pro
ICN
show,
doesn't.
whereas ICN doesn't. So for an
You've got to go
example,
pro there.
if you're an NBA pro, you can't do an ICN pro show. You've got to go through the amateur ranks to get your pro card. But if you're an NBA pro, you can do, say, like the AMB World Titles pro show at the end of this year, right? Because they allow that too. So just so people know, unless you're a multi-pro across multiple federations, not every federation will recognize your pro card from a different fed and allow you to compete. So
most do. ICN, I think, and that's why it's probably the most distinct, because it's the best natural fed in the world, in the sense that if you want to compete in an ICM Pro show, you've got to have earned your ICM Pro card.
Yeah.
Not to speak down on any of the other feds,
No.
but that's just kind of what they pride themselves on.
Yeah. Will you guys ever compete against each other? And has it happened before? No? Hasn't happened before?
Hasn't, but it's going to next year.
It's going to. MG and I. I can't wait. I want to stand next to you and get photos with you. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to be like going through some turns and like just hopefully standing next to him so like we can just whisper to each other on stage. Like, like I could, we could stir each other up a bit, or it'll just be awesome fun, man. And equally, I think we've said this before. I don't think either of us really gives a shit about the result, especially not against each other. Just the opportunity to do what we love together, because we've been doing this together for so many years, side by side as best mates. But that's the one thing that we haven't done, right? We've won overalls together on the same night. We've done all these things as coaches, but as competitors, we've never had the opportunity to stand next to each other on stage. So I just can't wait, man. Yeah,
it's going to be so much fun. Like just side stage pumping up together and then jumping on stage.
Like that will be the highlight of my competitive career. Standing next to you on stage. That'll be the best thing that I've ever done on a stage. So like that is my pro show.
Yeah. Do we know which show we're going to do at the same time?
No idea.
An ICN show, NBA show? I don't think we haven't really discussed it, eh?
There'll be a few. There'll be the season B. I just can't wait to be standing backstage and have a set of bands wrapped around one side of my waist, and I've got MT pulling one side and MG pulling on the other.
Yeah, it's
gonna be fun.
Can we do a sleepover the night before the show?
We make it like Scotty's?
Yeah, let's
and at least that way I can monitor everything.
Let's just make it like a real fun like boys' night. Like we'll get our tans, we'll watch some movies. Yeah, we can take photos of each other. It'll just be
Scotty can tuck us in. Good night, boys. All the best for tomorrow.
Hey, can you give us both a kiss on the forehead just before?
Man, it's going to come around before you know it.
I know. It's going to come around quick.
Like, you guys are not far off entering your pre-prep phases. It's almost August.
Yeah.
It's exciting, huh?
It's going to be fun. Should we wear matching, like, shorts, MG?
I have to. Or at least if they're not matching in colour, matching in style and brand.
Yeah. We should also, try to document the whole prep journey together somehow.
That's a good idea. Well, we could maybe utilize Alex and get like some sort of last 6 weeks sort of series.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good, because obviously we have photos of me coming to your gym when I'm in prep and, doing posing, and then, vice versa, but nothing ever together. So that'd be cool.
I think we just make a commitment like we did with this when we started this, right? We said we were going to do this non-negotiable every week podcast, and we haven't missed for 60 weeks. With that, we just say we're going to do at least one catch-up a week for the last 10 weeks where we document some training, some food, some time with Scotty's. We'll go down to Scotty's gym and maybe Scotty, you could do like a face-to-face check-in that we film that the people could watch.
Yeah. And
equally, should do.
I'm sure there'll be people who would, in terms of going through some of the nitty-gritty, because I feel like a lot of the students of the game find all of those elements of minutia, why you're doing what you're doing, adjustments that you've made, changes when you've made them, why you've made them, all of the nuts and bolts behind it all, because you'll both be, going through the same process, but obviously following, there'll be different systems in terms of your food intakes are going to be different depending on the individual.
Yeah. Mine's going to be considerably lower than MJ's for sure.
Kangaroo, pumpkin.
Yeah, I love that.
We might put the peaches on my meal plan before bed as well.
Yeah, peaches. Remember I did pumpkin soup for a while too.
You love that. You froth that pumpkin soup before bed.
Yeah, pumpkin soup before bed. That really filled me up. Yeah, that's a good tip. Pumpkin soup. If we're going to meet up and train, we should just do the potty all together then too.
Yeah, just not in that same room that we did the last episode.
No, just like proper. We should by that time we should probably get a studio. Hey.
Yeah.
Should probably suss it out.
That'll be awesome, man.
Yeah.
But that's a good idea. But we've never been in the same phase together ever. It's like I've always been lean when you've been trying to grow and so this will be the first time in a decade really. So it's going to be fucking awesome, man.
It'll be fun. Be awesome.
Be nice to just go down the rabbit hole together.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be good. Yeah, 100%.
And then maybe the prep after that, we can try and tie it in so we can all go together. The three musketeers.
Yeah, if all three of us can be in prep, that'd be awesome. And if all three of us can be on stage, that'll be even better.
Yeah, that'll be sick. Maybe we should all just go in bodybuilding.
Just so we can stand together. That would be such a good idea. That would be awesome. But well, in reality, that's the only way it could happen, right? Because Scotty's obviously been a pro champion, so he would have to change the division to accommodate us. So, but just for the fun of what a photo we could get, that would be worth it just once.
Actually, you know what we could do in Korea for ICN? They have a division we don't have here.
Which is?
Streetwear. Let's just go tops off with jeans on. Done.
All right.
Yeah, we could do that.
No, I like that. Let's go with the bodybuilding.
Let's go bodybuilding. Yeah, let's go bodybuilding. All right, boys. That was a good potty. A fair bit of questions. Thank you for everyone that put their questions through. We obviously really, really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to the next one.
Definitely.
All right, boys. You take care.
Birthday, so enjoy, have a week, and
right.
It'll just be me and him.
No Scotty for the next potty.
What's the actual date? What's your actual date, Scotty?
It's Saturday. It's Saturday, 29th.
Beautiful.
Birthday. How old?
Everyone send Scotty a message.
35.
35.
Yeah.
What's that? 87?
86.
Is it? Born 87?
88. Yeah, 88.
80. Oh, 36. Fuck.
36.
87.
Yeah, you're the same as me. Yeah, same as me, man. You are.
How bad's that? I don't even. I can't remember the last time someone asked how old you are.
When you describe the potty, could you put that at the end? Scott forgets his age. Can you?
I genuinely can't remember the last time someone asked how old you are.
Yeah.
How old are you? I wouldn't even know. Like 36, 35?
And I am 38 in December.
Are ya?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, MG?
Yeah, I'm 36. I'll be 37 in April next year. So.
Fuck, I can't believe that. I didn't even know how old I was. I feel like it's not just me though. Surely do you agree? When you turn 30, you kind of just stop paying attention to.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Like,
you got to remember how old you are.
It's just another day.
Just take a minute to appreciate how fucking adamant you were that you're 35.
Yeah.
When I said the year, I was like 87. I was like, huh?
Man, I lost track in COVID how old I was. I stopped celebrating birthdays in like the.
Well, hey, in fairness for you, it's all about the kids now, man. So.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, you don't look a day over 30.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Maybe if you can, just go back and just cut that bit out if you.
No chance.
What I was going to say, is there a way you can cut it and put it right at the start of the episode?
I could try.
Yeah, fuck, there you go.
Quality. Oh, we hope you have a great
Can't believe I fucked
birthday,
that
man.
up. There you go.
All right. Happy birthday, Scotty.
Happy birthday, brother.
Thanks,
We hope you
bro.
have a great day.
All right,
Speak
boys.
soon. See
See
ya.
ya.
Take care.